spy isn't as glamorous as I thought. But it isn't dull.
Good evening, everybody.
Hello, hello.
Welcome to another episode of Critique Corner with me, Daniel Parker.
And me, DB Fastbinder.
If you're new to the show, what we do is every week we start off with something that we've been consuming, which is, of course, our thing of the week. We do a little box office rundown, and then we get into the topics at hand. Although, did you want to do real quick before we forget? There was one topic that we didn't get to last week.
Yes.
I figure we might as well just get it out of the way. So we were going to do an update on Batman Gate.
Okay, so Batman Gate, a former DC writer claims that Matt Reeves' The Batman movie was ripped off from a story that he had been pitching for about 20 years. He has now actually filed a lawsuit against Warner Brothers for this. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that, how to put this. This doesn't necessarily mean that there's any basis to the case, because you can sue anybody for anything at any time.
Mm-hmm.
It just means you have to find a lawyer who's willing to take checks from you, or if they really think that you're onto something, they might be able to work on what's the perspective?
Pro bono.
Pro bono. Pro bono, or it's like pro bono, or like they think you're onto something, and they're willing to, I only get paid if you get paid, type thing.
Oh, okay, yeah.
But our general feeling on the case that we saw laid out, I thought we had found a bunch of Batman Gate fans, and there still isn't a whole lot about this movement, really.
No.
But this turned out to be a sarcastic thing, or at least this post here is sarcastic.
Yes.
Batman is Bruce Wayne. Jim Gordon is a white crossed out black police officer. The Riddler leaves behind riddles. It offers a new interpretation of a classic villain. Batman and Catwoman flirt. Gotham is a bad place to live. The climax is Batman fighting a group of people. The villain loses, but do they? The writer and director's names appear in the credits. Yeah, like that's we saw that, and we basically said, we can't top this as far as like the level of argumentation we were seeing.
Yeah. So suffice it to say, there's a lawsuit, and that's pretty much it.
Yep. Yeah. But we forgot to mention it last week, and it was in the thumbnail and the title, so it's our bad.
Yes, yeah. But yeah, so that's out of the way. Now on to theme of the week, or start with me. I watched the new. Oh God, I almost said Top Gear.
It's basically what it is.
Yeah.
I accidentally clicked the wrong button there. To keep. I was trying to get rid of this. There we go. I was trying to get rid of the little share icon.
Oh, okay. So for those of you who don't know, these three guys, you got going from top to bottom, left to right. You got Jeremy Clarkson, James May, and Richard Hammond. They used to be on Top Gear, which was on BBC, and then they're not on it. Then they left.
Jeremy Clarkson, why did he throw something at somebody or
he hit somebody?
Okay.
I think he hit a producer.
You know what? Quite frankly, like I usually don't agree with cancel culture, but that's a reason to toss someone off a show.
Yeah. Of course, it depends on what the producer said to him.
Right.
Well,
I could tell you that at my job, somebody in the remote like there were these two guys in one of our remote offices who really hated each other, and one of them shoved the other one, and he was done at that point.
Yeah.
Like it didn't matter what the other guy had said to him.
Yeah.
But the other guy was oddly happy about it because, like, hey, he's gone now.
Yeah. But after that, May and Hammond left, and then they went and got their own show on Amazon called The Grand Tour, which is basically kind of a redoing of Top Gear. Did that for 3 seasons, and then they stopped doing that. And now every once in a while they do these Grand Tour specials. They're about anywhere from 90 minutes to 2 hours, and they doing what they usually do, drive around in cars and make complete morons of themselves.
Like someone showed me like a clip where it was like, we're gonna see which of these buses is these overloaded tour buses is the best at drag racing.
Yeah. So for this one, they're up in very, very north in Scandinavia. So they're up in up in the Arctic Circle. So they started in Norway, and then they went through Finland and Sweden, and eventually in Sweden. And they're in these they're these rally cars, which are basically just racing cars on dirt roads. And it's basically just them going around and doing all different kinds of stuff and drive around frozen lakes. And probably my favorite part is one of the things that usually happens is they'll start towing something big, like a caravan or a trailer of some kind, and then it always goes wrong. Something always happens. So for this one, they're pulling these sheds along, and the sheds are on skis because it's snow everywhere, and of course they're just slipping and sliding everywhere, and they end up on a. So one of the things that happens is they get caught in a blizzard and they have to stop, then hey Ninja Toe, good to see you, and they wake up the next morning, they find out they're on a ski run. And so one of the things that happens in the show is that Clarkson and Hammond are messing with each other. And so Clarkson finally has enough, and he uncouples Hammond's shed from his car, and he pushes Hammond's shed down the ski slope with Hammond still inside. He just goes flying down.
It occurs to me, is the Grand Tour in Top Gear, for that matter, basically kind of like what was that MTV show with the dumb pranks?
Jackass?
Was it basically Jackass with cool cars?
Kind of, yeah. But they don't hurt themselves nearly as much as they did on Jackass.
All right, that's why they can keep doing it into their 60s.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. But I will say James May, he had kind of a rough time because he did crash his car. Ended up with a busted rib, and but then another time they're driving on a frozen lake, and his car actually almost went down into the lake, like the ice broke, and it kind of like part of it went under. So, but yeah, he didn't necessarily have as good a time as the other two, but this was a fun little special that they did. The last couple that they did were filmed during COVID. so they couldn't really go anywhere too far, and I think they did the best they could with what they had, but this was a welcome change of pace, since they weren't stuck in they weren't stuck in the UK. They could actually go somewhere.
Right.
Yeah.
So, well, and it definitely gives, that type of cold definitely gives an interesting, it mixes things up nicely.
Oh yeah, and there was one part where they're going into a car shop, and like the parking lot is just a sheet of ice.
Oof.
And they get out and they're just slipping and sliding everywhere, and Clarkson actually has a brilliant idea to unthaw the ice by just peeing on it.
If it works.
Yeah, it works. But yeah, one of the nice things about the show is you don't have to like cars to watch it. So, because I think like 80-90% of the audience that watches the show, they don't know a thing about cars. So. But yeah, if you're interested, give it a watch. Of course, Amazon Prime.
Which means that if you're paying for free shipping, it's already there anyway.
Yes.
Meanwhile, on my side, I decided to delve a little bit into The Simpsons. I discovered a YouTube channel recently. What's it called? One sec. You know how some YouTube channels just don't have very distinctive names?
Yes.
It's like something Jim. The Real Jims. There we go.
Okay.
He does these deep dive Simpsons things. Like he'll talk about the history of the different seasons, what the different seasons were like. He'll kind of chart the trajectory. It's like, okay, season 1, they're getting their feet under them. Season 2 had a lot of touchy-feely stories. By season 5, they were kind of tired of touchy-feely, so they would subvert that everywhere they could.
Yeah.
And I decided to try a couple of things just for sake of curiosity. I had heard that the Disney Plus renditions of a few Simpsons, like especially the early seasons, were not that great, and I was forced to conclude that those were not inaccurate, because they basically took a 4x3 show, and rather than kind of going scene by scene and figuring out the best, if you have to 16:9 convert it, where to make the chop, they just we have one camera angle, we're sticking to it.
Yes.
Which ruined a couple of gags that I saw.
Yeah.
I also think the transfer wasn't very good, because I kept noticing like bits of yellow outside of the characters' heads. Then I busted out my DVD collection, where I had like the first 8 seasons. So I watched some of season 4, and I concluded that on my 4K TV, it was like a little bit pixelated, because of course, it was made for 480p, 360p, whatever.
Yeah.
So you're going to have some like jaggy lines on some things, but overall, it was a much better version of it. And I had the commentaries to listen to, which are very interesting. So those all held up. Then I decided to watch some later Simpsons episodes. I realized that I had stopped watching in season 14, and I'd heard about the episode Large Marge, where she gets accidental implants, and the joke is around that.
Yeah.
And I thought that was funny. And then the Real Jims had suggested, or had reviewed a few season 33 episodes. I'm like, there's no way I'm going to like this. He's just trying to talk this up because he is a Simpsons channel. What else is he going to do, right?
Right.
Or he's so brainwashed because he's been keeping up with the Simpsons and has opinions on every season that he, of course, he's just kind of brainwashed. So one episode was just kind of cool. It was just like it was called Boys in the Highlands, and it was Bart and Martin, some of the boys from school, on a journey to get from point A to point B, and they run across some occultists and a baby goat and stuff. And that was just like a good solid episode. Didn't have any cringe, didn't have any weird cutaways. And the episode seemed to hate Lisa, which kind of is okay by me at this point.
Yeah.
Like she was fun during the early seasons, but over time she just kind of became obnoxious.
Yeah.
Um, but then I was like, okay, they got one good episode in season 33. There's no way they're going to have two. I'll try this other one that he reviewed. That sounds way less my speed. And I was actually laughing out loud at bits of it. And when I actually turned it on when Daniel was taking a quick facilities break
Yeah.
before the show, he can attest that I was laughing and giggling a little bit.
Yes.
So that hence the image I chose today to represent my thing of the week, which is basically I laughed out loud at a current well, technically last season since the new season is about to start, but current-ish season of The Simpsons.
Yeah.
Am I disabled?
Yeah.
So I will say it is like season 33 so much more watchable than season 14, which is a weird thing to say. Like,
Yeah.
it seems like they got some better people.
Oh, well, that's good. Yeah, I'm kind of with you. I dipped around. I think I dipped out around like probably around season 20 or 20-ish.
Mm-hmm.
And it's well, and because like you were saying, it started getting really cringe, and the humor wasn't there anymore. And although I did go see can't remember what year the movie came out and what season. I did see the movie in the theater, which I thought that was all right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It had issues, but it wasn't awful.
Yeah. Yeah, they had Arnold Schwarzenegger as the president of the United States.
I think that was like okay, if we make it Rainier Wolf Castle, the audience will be confused and won't get the joke.
Right.
Because they have to assume that people are just going to come in off the streets who may have seen a Simpsons episode one time.
Yeah. I was elected to lead, not to read.
Yeah. But yeah, who knows? I might actually start dipping my toes into some of the later stuff. Not going to watch all of it because there's just so many episodes at this point. Man, people love calling me at 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
That's 2 weeks in a row that happened.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's my thing of the week.
Cool.
I was pleasantly surprised.
Yeah.
Speaking of, although an unpleasant surprise, The Woman King.
Yes.
Number one at the box office. Okay, that was a bad transition. Bad. That was always going to be the number one at the box office, just because what else was there?
Yeah, there's nothing really else out. Yeah.
Like Barbarian had a good hold, less than 40% drop week over week, which I think that was like an indie budget horror movie, wasn't it?
I believe so. Yes. Yeah.
Let's see.
I don't think it gave a budget, did it? No, it didn't.
No, but for this type of little horror movie, probably not going to be too expensive, I wouldn't think.
No. I mean, probably it's 7, maybe 8 figures.
Yeah. We had like a couple little indie movies come out to like $3 million a piece. Bullet Train is still chugging away. Top Gun is finally out of the top 5 for the first time since it launched.
Yeah.
Which you were pointing out before the show, you can just buy it on digital now. So
yeah.
And the Blu-ray release is a little bit over a month away. So
yeah.
But
yeah.
And I kind of looked into it, and actually let's talk about Woman King a little bit first.
Okay.
So much has been said about the problems with this movie.
Yeah, it's apparently not historically accurate. Although I will play a little devil's advocate with that. There are many Hollywood movies that have been released that are based on real people or based on actual events, and they've taken a lot of creative liberties with them. Off the top of my head, Braveheart. It was one of those movies. It was based on, obviously William Wallace was a real guy, but there were a lot of things that happened in that movie that were not true. They didn't wear kilts into battle. There was no prima nocta. There was no,
Right. Prima nocta in general was a complete fabrication of later generations, as I recall.
Yeah, and I can't remember. Yeah, but there were a bunch of other stuff in there. So it's not unheard of for Hollywood to be a little, revisionist with the movie. But yeah, this movie is definitely one of those movies that we were kind of talking about last week, being fan bait in a way.
Yep.
Even though it's not part of a franchise or anything like that, but it's certainly baiting people,
Right. And the Holy Ninja brings up The Patriot as another example. Boy, Mel Gibson sure seemed to like these.
Yeah, he did.
I would say it's kind of like because he was an ego-driven, and I'm not saying this like necessarily a fault, but like an ego-driven person, kind of like Stallone is.
Mm-hmm.
Just because, it's like Stallone famously kind of ruined Judge Dredd because, like, well, I can't be kind of the bad guy.
Yeah.
People paid to see my face.
Yeah.
You.
I am the law.
The luau. Well, something he's saying luau. Anyway, it does seem kind of a fan bait thing. The analogy I've heard multiple from a couple of places is like it'd be like if you had the story about the one bad guys in World War II regiment who decided it'd be like if you had the SS being portrayed as, oh, we want to stop the camps where you concentrate.
Yeah.
Mel Gibson and historical films don't mix, other than Passion of the Christ. Yeah, like, good on him for like going to so much effort to be authentic.
Yeah.
But on that one, but yeah, yes. I see the kind of the bind it's in, because on the one hand, it's like you don't want to send the message to Hollywood that movies about black women don't sell, because everybody deserves to have movies made about them. They could have there are so many more worthy figures. It's not like, oh, I think wasn't Viola Davis also in Hidden Figures? That was a pretty good movie.
Yeah.
And it's not like we find out that, oh, well, it turns out that people behind Hidden Figures were involved in the Holocaust.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of the equivalent here.
Yeah. Yeah. They could have picked. Like you're saying, they could have picked just about any like movie, any historical figure like this to make a movie about, and it'd be a positive figure, and they really missed the mark with this one.
For that matter, you could have done a low fantasy story, just set it in like an alternate Africa or something.
Yeah. You could have done like a 300-esque, movie. That's
right. Like Africa. I will call this problematic in and of itself, and I hate that word.
Mm-hmm.
But Africa does deserve to have movies made about it. I don't know if this is still true, but you know what? At least at one point, the highest, actually, this may still be true depending on where they actually filmed this. You know what the highest grossing movie for a long time was that was actually filmed in Africa?
What was that?
The Gods Must Be Crazy.
Oh.
Which is not a bad movie, but it's definitely not very African.
No. Yeah. Yeah, it's a little yeah.
It's very I think it's South African, as I recall.
I believe so, yes.
Yeah. But if you want like a good movie depiction of culture shock and whatnot, that's actually like a really solid one.
Yeah. Ninja Toast says you can make a film about the kingdom, warts and all, if done with respect to history. Look at Scorsese with his gangster films. Yeah.
See, here's kind of the thing though, is that okay, so just like there are people out there who will see, oh, movie about a black woman, I instantly hate it. Boy, that someone can take that out of context. But there are going to be people who go, oh, character is a strong female and a black female at that. I'm going to instantly stand for this movie, and I love this character, and everything that she did was cool.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
with the gangster movie characters, you still, at the end of the day, they're still awful people. Just gangster movies are interesting because it's all about like the loyalty and like there's a line that I keep hearing your boy Zach talk about with about GI Joe that the main author of it always talking about, where most superheroes are power fantasies.
Yeah.
Where GI Joe is a loyalty fantasy. That's the appeal of mobster movies.
Yeah. It's they're still really they're really bad guys, but yeah, they're very loyal to each other. Yeah, it's and yeah, loyalty to the family.
Yeah.
But yeah, like a good example of that would be with Goodfellas. Like that movie was good and it was fairly accurate, although Joe Pesci was miscast because the guy that he played in that movie was the complete opposite of Joe Pesci in terms of his size and stature.
Big.
Oh yeah, he was a big dude. Yeah. And also like Henry Hill, like when he got arrested, like one of the interesting little fact, the prosecutor that he went to talk to, that the real Henry Hill talked to, is actually the same prosecutor in the movie. In real life, not only did he and his Henry Hill bring his wife with him, but he also brought like two mistresses that were in the waiting area. He wanted them in witness protection. But
fair enough.
Yeah.
Because the mobsters would know about them.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But yeah, like Henry Hill may have done the right thing, but he was still a bad guy. Yeah.
Now the question is, will it budget or will it beat its budget? So
50 million, I would say. Yeah, it could do that. I mean, depending on.
Let's bring out our unofficial third.
Third host.
Yes. Calculator Chan. What I'd be really curious about is how this movie would play in Africa. I would laugh so hard if this movie played really well in whatever country the Dahomey tribe was like based in, and then everywhere else it was a flop.
Yeah.
But which I forget where that was. It's somewhere around like Ivory Coast.
Okay.
His memory serves, in that general area.
Okay.
Not like it's like the bend of Africa, I guess you would call it, as opposed to the Horn of Africa.
Oh, so it'd be West Africa.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
But okay, so we have a $50 million movie. The question is, how much did they spend to market this thing? So I saw trailers in the theater. It actually and the bad trailer Ninja that usually just gets lumped. African movie sales usually just get lumped into the international take.
Yeah.
Now, what's interesting here is that we don't have any international take data on it so far. Several days after its first weekend, so it may not have gotten a major international release, which could really hurt it.
Yeah.
But and we'll get into why that might be in a minute.
Yeah.
Now, I saw trailers of it before Bullet Train. Those trailers apparently just completely misrepresented the movie because they had loud, obnoxious. There's rap songs I like, but just loud, obnoxious rap, which makes it sound like it's going to be. It apparently is completely not the tone of the movie, from what I heard Chris Gore saying.
Yeah. I don't know why that makes sense why they did that.
But yeah, if we're not seeing an international release, let's just go with the old. Oops, let's just go with the old standard and say that they're gonna do 50% of the movie as
Yeah,
for marketing purposes.
75 million, and then
Then they basically get roughly half. 150 million with a 23 million start.
probably, yeah, I know.
Their only saving grace is going to be that their main saving grace is going to be that there's not really any competition in September, from my understanding.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, there's not much competition, but at the same time, not as many people going to the movies.
Yep. So yeah,
Yeah.
I think this one is gonna go down with some ignominy, and I just hope. How many people do you think ended up going to this movie thinking it was Wakanda Forever and were very surprised?
Probably a couple. Yes.
And yeah, I would say with all sincerity that I kind of hope that somebody does kind of take this and go, there's some interest in this type of thing. Maybe we shouldn't. Maybe we shouldn't be like script written by two white women
Yeah.
that they kind of just made up everything, and maybe like instead of trying to. Here's an interesting thing that someone pointed out at the time, and it's kind of what I'll call it's kind of like a hard thing where you don't know what won't offend people.
Mhm.
So, do you remember when The Princess and the Frog came out? There were a variety of
Yeah, I'm only
there were a
seeing it once.
variety of well, Ninja, do you want us to try to help hit that goal, or are you secretly hoping he comes in under the goal?
Yeah, yeah.
But
But yeah, Princess and the Frog.
so there were a couple of controversies. One was, well, 3D movies are the big thing. Why does the Black Princess get a the 2D treatment, where everyone else was like, hooray, finally a 2D movie.
Yeah.
Which it didn't do all that great, but I think it was popular enough.
Mm-hmm.
The second controversy was, why do you have to set it in real life and you couldn't just put it in Fantasy Kingdom? And there's I remember so many of you boys Zach's videos where he points out that to a lot of writers, they see a black person and think of slavery, which is messed up.
Yes.
So what I would actually say is I hope that they kind of take this response and go, people get kind of annoyed when we repurpose existing characters, and they get annoyed when we tell false history. What if we just made took an African legend or made up a story from whole cloth that just happened to be set in a fictional Africa? Black Panther proves that there's a market for fantastical African stories.
Yeah, and the African folklore and mythology and everything like that. I mean, that's a gold mine for storytelling. I mean,
right. What would have probably you want to tell a story from the perspective of the Zulu? You could probably get people behind that. Give that the 300 treatment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You wouldn't get to have Viola Davis be the main star, but it's...
Yeah.
But so I was kind of curious about it just in general. So the numbers has their domestic theatrical market summary. So at this point of the year, this was like a very nice breakdown here. 2022, we've made roughly, or the domestic box office has been roughly just shy of 8 billion. In 2020, it was 2 billion. So, like pandemic shutdowns and all that.
Right.
2002, 14 billion by this point, 14 and a half.
Oof.
So it's not a healthy market where Top Gun is like 10% of the box office.
Yeah.
I think part of it is just that people are still adjusting to going to the movies again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Ethiopia would be great. Like, you want to get Middle America to watch a movie about Black people, have it be the Christian nation being beset on all sides by uh, by Muslim conquerors. You know,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
I think it was Emperor Teodoro II who totally bamboozled the Italians into giving him the weapons that he used to kick the Italians out of Ethiopia. Like I think they introduced intentional mistranslations in the treaty as it was in Ethiopian versus Italian, where it's like the Italian version said, "Oh, you will conduct your diplomacy with the outside world through Italy," and in Ethiopian it said, "We may conduct diplomacy." So they basically gave him like I think 2 million cartridges or something for nothing,
Jeez.
and then he proceeded to use that to slaughter the Italian army when they went in to actually conquer the place.
Ooh. Jeez.
Yeah, I mean they
Yeah.
did it. They got him the second time, but the first time that would make a good story.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean just us sitting here rattling things off, like we came up with 3 or 4 better, like more palatable scripts.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, it's not a healthy movie market, unfortunately. I think we're getting back towards health,
Mm-hmm.
but it's I mean it's still Top Gun Maverick sold 77 million tickets. Now that isn't 77 million people, but that shows a big chunk of people willing to go back to the movies. You just got to actually have good movies in the box at the box office.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. You actually have to make good movies.
Yep. So I think that's everything I wanted to cover for the box office for the week. Did you have anything or?
No, I did not have anything.
Right. So I was thinking about it. Let's not jump right to. I don't want to jump right to our tweet we have here. So let me go ahead and replace one image with another.
All right.
So My Dress Up Darling got a second season. I find this completely unsurprising.
Yeah, same here.
Like there are anime that I've seen where I go, how the hell did that get a second season? Specifically, Restaurant to Another World, which basically every episode is, oh, we're people in a fantasy kingdom. Oh, we came across this door that takes us to this great restaurant in Japan. We will try a Japanese food and or Western-inspired Japanese food and really enjoy it. We will then go home and talk about how much we enjoyed that food from the Japanese restaurant. There's also some world building. What an exciting story! But clearly, it stimulated light novel sales enough to justify its existence. And that's the sad truth: is if you think about why didn't your favorite anime get a second season? It didn't inspire enough enough geeks in Japan to go pick up the manga or the light novel.
Yeah, that's the sad reality.
The anime is made to basically break even as an advertisement for the original media.
Mm-hmm.
But Dress Up Darling, yeah, like everybody was talking about it like 6 months ago when it was current.
Oh yeah, and you had weebs across the world fall in love with Marin Kitagawa, or however you pronounce her name.
That's an interesting thing. Actually, and this kind of relates to some of the controversy about it getting a second season. I remember there being a lot of jokes and memes about when Spy X Family came out and everybody switched from lusting after Marine to Yor. Like, what? For once, weebs are going after an adult woman? What?
Yeah. Is Twitter shocked that the show's getting a second season? Not really. No.
Not shocked so much as outraged.
Yes. I prefer Comey can't communicate. I've heard some good things about that series.
It's not my speed, but it's one of those things where I understand why people like it.
Yeah. But yeah. Although along with the love for this series, there was some controversy as well. Because so a lot of it stems from Marin, and they don't like her. They don't like her because they say it's because of her age, because she is 15 in the series. They said, yeah, she's 15.
Y'all,
Y'all,
missing the apostrophe.
yes.
Isn't this character a minor? So you're buying, selling child figurines. Now, if y'all, and they put the apostrophe in the. Actually, no, they put it in the right place.
No, put it in the right place, but they didn't put one in hadn't.
Yeah, put that together. So I get the controversy around this.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder how much for those that Maureen is actually like genuinely a nice person and outgoing.
I think to be honest, I think that's a lot of it. Yeah.
You know, before we get into like the which way Western man type thing,
Yeah.
I've noticed a big switch in just the last 5 years or so. Remember when every single anime, the girl was a tsundere?
Yes.
Like it didn't matter what the genre was. He would never go, the guy might have choices, but he would never go for the kind of motherly one. He would never go for the geeky one. He would never go for the girl next door. He would never, it was always the bitchy tsundere with no positive character traits.
Yeah.
But if you think about it, like newer series have got even Dragon Ball Bulma kind of is in that kind of character archetype.
Yeah.
But now it's like My Hero Academia. Who's the tsundere in My Hero Academia? You can't name one.
No, I can't think of one.
Because Gravity Girl is nice, and basically everybody is varying degrees of nice, except for the knife crazy one who is yandere, not tsundere.
Yes.
You take who's the tsundere in Demon Slayer? Not any of the romantic interests that you could argue for Tanjiro.
Nope.
Arguably, some of the men are rather tsundere because it's a story with a lot of whiny people.
Yeah.
Like so, I've said before, you can kind of tell about an author based on by how they write people.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I would get along with the writer of Demon Slayer because all of their characters are constantly whining.
Yeah.
But that's either here nor there. So that aside, you know what Marine isn't?
What?
A technically strong, independent woman. Because
yeah. Tsundere works when the main male character has a strong backbone, not with a spineless one. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and speaking of the main character, Marine is kind of it's almost like a different sort of fantasy. So it's like I've heard people disparagingly call the tsundere the fantasy of, the girl who's mean to you actually likes you, she just doesn't know how to say it.
Yeah.
It's a different fantasy for things like Comey and Marine and a few others, where it's like the fantasy is, you'll find that one thing you share with this girl who's kind of out of your league, and she'll decide that she likes you.
Yeah. It's it very much does. I think it's like the third episode of the show. That's when Marion just falls head over heels in love with Gojo.
Yep. And that was after he accidentally got to third base without noticing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Holy Ninja says it well. How dare a woman be nice?
Yeah.
Like that's a thing, isn't it? It's that when you get down to like so many female characters in so much Western media these days, like Captain Marvel and Rey are like the exemplars.
Yeah.
Which, if I had to choose between Rey and Captain Marvel, Rey. That's because Rey is like bland, not distasteful.
Yes.
Hey, D Rhino.
Hey, D Rhino.
Yeah, we're talking about Dress Up Darling and people being all Twitter about it.
Yeah, it's they They say they say they don't like her because of her age, but in reality, it's just because she's pretty and she's very nice.
Yeah, it's like you can be to some of these people you can be pretty, but you have to be mean and have nothing to do with men.
Mm-hmm.
How dare she have a hobby in common with a guy?
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Particularly a guy who whose life revolves around his hobby and school.
Yes. If anything, they should be celebrating because while in Japan, what he's doing is seemingly a male. Actually, no, even in Japan, that one girl thought he was creepy as a kid because he liked the Hina dolls. So
Right. Yeah.
he's challenging societal norms.
Yeah.
If anything, it's a woke show.
Yeah. And on top of that, they talk about how like people with different genders will cosplay as a character from another gender.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How dare a man and woman get together because of a shared hobby?
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly. Yeah.
Now, on the flip side, if you had asked me how old Maureen was, I would have probably guessed 17 or 18. So her
Mhm.
being 15 does make me a little bit uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But that's because, well, let me. So on my personal Discord, people like to share art of different VTubers.
Mhm.
And normally it's just like, okay, that character is kind of attractive. I saw this one and just immediately went, uh, Mume and Bales, where are your parents? It's a school night. Do they know that you're posting these pictures online? That is not appropriate behavior, young lady. And I
Yeah.
felt very old when I had that reaction to
Yeah.
that. But I did.
Yeah. But Teen Rhino here is when will the twits learn they can't beat Japanese entertainment? Nope.
Nope, but they can certainly complain about it.
Yes, and
So see, now I feel even older because Ninja's like, ooh, Mume.
yeah.
No, I'm more of a fauna guy, but
Yeah, yeah.
all right. So I think that anything else you wanted to say on this topic?
I don't think so. No. Yeah.
Well, speaking of complaining, Frosk is gone.
Yes. Yes. I think it was about a week ago. They G4 announced. I think we talked about it. They announced they're laying off a bunch of people, and then Frosk, of course, spiked the football and said, "Oh, I'm still here."
Yeah. Which, okay. On the one hand, so many people hate her that I could see her wanting to take that victory lap. Yeah, I'm still around. On the other hand, gee, way to be sensitive to your coworkers
Yeah.
who you helped unemploy with your rant. Though, okay, so we have a few people here. Quick poll: who here had realized that G4 was back before you heard about Frosk's rant? Or who here had not realized
Yeah.
that G4 was back before Frosk's rant?
Yeah.
Because I know I sure hadn't.
I didn't either. Yeah. Yeah, Ninja Toad. Nope. He hadn't.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
I suspect that the rant was pre-written and it was designed to get hate watches.
Mhm.
It was because it kind of seemed to come out of nowhere. You know that anything that big, they were going to get approval. Plus, we know that they had script writers.
Yeah.
She kind of gave away some of the business, revealing, yeah, we don't necessarily play all the games that we review. We have people do that for us and then give us our talking points. Because who has time to play all these games? Gamers? Gamers who are gamers professionally would have time to play these games.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, yeah, we're not saying you have to play like 5 or 10, but you can play one or two.
I'm more upset that she potentially put the completionist on hot water because of her rant. I guess I heard about that.
Yeah, I hadn't either.
But was it because of his association with it, with the new G4? Because I know that they tried to bring in some people in desperation, like a bunch of VTubers like Iron Mouse, and which was really funny. After they're not designed to be easy on the eyes. Well, Iron Mouse's design sure is.
Yeah.
Oh, he
Oh,
was on that panel.
he was on the
Okay.
panel. Okay.
Yeah. Well, you lie down with dogs, you get fleas, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah, but yeah, so it seems that and yeah, it's inevitable that the great comeback of G4 was nothing more than a blip on the radar, the blip on the radar of the gaming world, and we probably should have stayed dead and buried.
Sometimes dead is better.
Yes.
I feel like there had to be a way to do it. I think the problem was that they came in with their big Hollywood budgets
Mhm.
and were treating it like it was still 2000 whatever when it went under.
Mhm.
When you could have it could have been less of these pre-produced flashy shows. Maybe they had like one of them for Adam Sessler or whatever, but
Mhm.
you could have had a bunch of uh, talent be part of a network for it. I'm going to call it the whole life model, where you basically have a bunch of personalities who you start off with. Maybe like you have a small cohort who do things together, then you can expand out from there and have crossovers, and people get caught up in the ins and outs. Of course,
Mhm.
the other part of the whole life model is they've got to be easy on the eyes.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mentioned this when we talked about G4 a couple of weeks ago, that you know Olivia Munn, she might not exist to be easy on the eyes, but it certainly helped her get hired to be
Right,
on there.
right. The other thing is that you don't get that easy on the eyes by accident. You work hard to be that easy on the eyes. You can't do much about your face, but everything else on your body,
Hmm.
y- there's pumping iron and jogging for that.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It takes work, but yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. But yeah, uh, it will be interesting to see if we ever hear from Frosk again. If she gets hired someplace else, or if she just kind of fades into obscurity.
Uh, I'm trying to think about it. Like we were talking about, I was just mentioning that my theory that that whole thing was designed to get hate watches.
Mhm.
When we talked about last week or so, or last week or 2 weeks ago about this, I said, can you imagine how different the reception would have been if it had been a rant in defense of the audience? I think the problem is that they live in their bubbles where, oh yeah, the audience is awful. Who's
Yeah.
paying your salary?
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah. It's like movie reviewers who feel like their job is to tell you what they like or what you should like. It's like, no, tell us about the thing.
Hmm.
Like, like, you know what? I would, dress up darling. There are people in my life I would recommend dress up darling to. There are people in my life I would not recommend dress up darling to.
Yeah. Same here.
Um, I'm not even sure that I would recommend dress up darling for me because I kind of felt like as soon as they introduced other characters, the series watered down a bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
But on the other hand, without other characters, you can't just have Marine and Gojo be friends forever.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
You gotta
yeah.
have some
They,
conflict.
yeah, there has to be some conflict. Yeah, and you got to have Gojo, getting very shy and awkward around her when she's like uh,
Yeah,
lightly clothed and all that. Yeah, but yeah.
yeah, yeah. So a good reviewer could absolutely despise My Dress Up Darling and everything about it, and they wouldn't feel the need to bring up politics or sexism. You could read their review and decide they gave it a very low score, but reading what they said about the content, I think it would be for me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the sign of a good review. I'm not even sure if I'm a good reviewer by this standard. But it's basically, could you describe something to somebody, even if you absolutely hated it, in a way that if it was their thing, would they get it?
Mm. Yeah, and that seems to be a lost art nowadays.
Well, and with things like Rings of Power, where you get the impression that they may have bought some nice reviews.
Oh yeah.
Like I've heard accusations that a lot of Lord of the Rings related YouTube channels suddenly got Audible partnerships at the start of the year.
Oh, really?
For those who don't know, Amazon owns Audible.
What a coincidence.
Yes, and there was that one guy who's accusing them of actually trying to pay him for a positive review of the show. But what's really funny is that Midnight's Edge was talking about how all the professional reviews for Rings of Power had the escape hatch so that they could say, oh, well, I just said if the show didn't develop soon, it would be bad. But, early on, there was still promise.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, who knows? Maybe the checks ran out. Anyway.
Yeah.
By Frosk. I would say give a shot at being an independent YouTube creator, but you've kind of blown that too. So congratulations.
Yeah.
Because you bet against the people who actually are the audience for a thing like this.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that just like the constant refrain? Is like, oh, okay, like if we go back to The Woman King, who's the audience for this? I forgot to mention this before. You know why I suspect we don't have an international box office yet?
Mm.
A lot of Asian countries will just go, black characters, we don't care.
Yeah.
Specifically, the CCCP seems to, it's like, we don't want to see Chadwick Boseman's ugly face. Ew, ew, ew.
Yeah.
Put him in his mask on our cover, or on our posters. Well, we have Finn, shrink him down. You think Woman King is getting a release in China?
No, it's not getting a release in China.
No. So I think this is kind of one of those. It needs to make its money in the U.S. But it's like, you make things for an audience that you want to exist. Like they would love it if there was a bunch of, like I guess I'll put it, socially liberal gamers who just liked hearing the official word from companies. Doesn't exist.
Nope.
Speaking of things that don't exist, evidence that Warner Brothers is going to get sold again in 2 years.
Yeah.
I watched a video from Wes Overthinking Critical. No shade, I just disagree with his take on it.
Yeah.
Where it's like, Warner Brothers film is in such shambles that that Discovery can't turn it around. They're just gonna, because actually, this is kind of ties back. We talked about that Italian versus an Ethiopian treaty where the one version said you will, and the other version said you may. Some people seem to be taking the fact that the Warner Brothers Discovery buyout or merger would technically allow them to start shopping Warner Brothers around to other buyers within 2 years after the merger was completed, and treating it as if it's a sure thing.
Yeah, and I don't. Yeah, and I don't necessarily see it as a sure thing because they just bought it. Like it doesn't seem, and I'm well aware that Warner Brothers has changed hands multiple times over the last 20 or so years, but it doesn't seem like a very good idea to just turn around and sell it right after you've bought it.
Yeah. Yeah, this is the Direct. I've never heard of the Direct. Is the place I found talking about it.
Yeah, I haven't heard of that either.
So
WB is a big of a property to flip it.
Yeah, And I don't think they even own the. It, do they own the Home Improvement Channel? I think they might. That sounds like one of their properties.
I think so. Yeah, they own they own all of those like home and garden channels, and yeah.
So yeah, it's how to put it. I don't see it happening. I just think that we're going to have a rocky period while we kind of expunge the stuff that was already in the pipeline.
Mhm.
What's funny is I watched this video where they were talking about all the properties that have been canceled. Um, and what was really funny about it was that, oh yeah, over $1 billion in savings. Some of this dumb stuff was so expensive that I was thinking, oh, half-hour video talking about $1 billion of savings. There must be like 50 shows and movies in here. No, it was like 10.
Okay. Oh boy.
Like there was a lot of dumb stuff in the pipeline. Like just
Yeah.
more of that. Make it for the audience we want to have.
Yeah, and I know there are probably still some people who are upset about Batgirl getting canceled. I'm not.
Nope.
I will say I do hope we get a sequel to the Batman.
Yeah, like let them chop it down a bit. Let them, um, you know, let them work on it some. Lessons
Mhm.
learned from the first movie. First movie wasn't perfect, but it had a good premise and
Mhm.
good cast. There's, Batman Begins wasn't perfect.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, I would love to see Heart of Ice.
Oh, that would be cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
that that would probably be the Batman to handle that one actually,
Oh yeah.
because the second movie ended with him, having hope again. So,
Yeah, and yeah, you bring in Mr. Freeze and his
mhm.
tragic backstory. Oh yeah.
Yeah, although they might be afraid of Mr. Freeze after the Schwarzenegger version, but
Yeah, yeah, but you cast a good enough actor to play him. I mean, they can make it work.
yeah, yeah, that would be a good one. Just please don't do that version of Joker. Please, please, please.
Yeah, yeah,
You're going to already have a Joker movie.
yeah,
Um, just don't.
yeah, yeah. The other one I would like to see would be Mask of the Phantasm, and you could use the Joker,
Hmm.
but yeah, like you're saying, not that Joker.
Not the Joker who looks like he took an extra 10-minute dip in the acid compared to the comics.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But yeah, I think Warner Brothers is staying put.
Right. Because Zaslav just made everybody hate him by canceling everything. We think he's got to cut and run now.
Yeah. Yeah, the Joker being deleted was the best idea with the Batman. Yeah.
Yep. We already got too much of him.
Yeah.
Um, let's see. Is there anything else interesting going on as far as Warner Brothers goes? Apparently they just broke everybody's hearts over at people who are still holding out some hope for DC Comics by having Teenie Howard write Harley Quinn,
Oh.
which is basically hiring the same person with the same point of view. That's what's great about what's so funny to me is that they wanted to make Harley Quinn a better role model for girls, and in doing so, they stripped away what made the character good
Yeah.
and made her a worse role model for little girls.
Yeah. Uh, well, if although in retrospect, she probably is not the best choice to have as a good role model for girls.
I think it was more just like, oh, she's popular. Let's try to make this happen.
Yeah.
Like, let's try to put this square peg into this round hole.
No. Let's see. Apparently, Marvel Comics made resurrection possible for everyone with Krakoa. Captain America got killed and resurrected in one issue.
You gotta be wrong, Holy Ninja Toa. They canceled Marvel Comics around 2015 and just switched over to reprints. Odd choice with the MCU being so popular. You would have thought they could have done some synergy, but I guess they decided that it was best to leave it in the past.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, it's this is a topic that's come up occasionally, and I think that we talk about people talk about woke entertainment or whatever, and Comics Perch came out with a great video that kind of like, it was nice to hear somebody else say that. Kind of had the creeping realization that it's less woke and more that so much of it is just so dull.
Yeah. Yeah, he brought up a good point about The Last Jedi. Like, if you think about it, yeah, it's a boring movie.
He described it as the O.J. Simpson car chase in space for 2 hours.
Yeah. Well, it was. Yeah, like yeah, slow speed space chase.
You know what they really could have done, and this would have been much cooler. This was an idea I had months later. Rip off the Wrath of Khan, and they aren't having a out in the open space chase. The rebels hide in a nebula that the Empire or the Empire basically can't scan, so they're having to slowly go through, and there's like drifting rocks, and so it's kind of like the asteroid belt chase with Han Solo and from Empire Strikes Back on a bigger scale.
Yeah.
And you could have it be like it is taking weeks, so you would have time to have Rey train, and you would have time for Finn and Poe to go do a mission.
Well, of course, that would require Rian Johnson to have foresight and
Yeah, basically a submarine fight, just like a fleet of submarines.
Yeah.
Cat and mouse, probes, scanner scans, having to go dark for long periods of time.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes a whole lot more sense than just slowly creeping along, and
Yep.
Yeah.
And have like maybe have the rebels actually have like a weapon that they can get. Like if they can get to the center of the nebula, there is like a derelict Star Destroyer fleet or something that they can get to and use to actually try to fight the Empire.
Yeah. There's there are a lot of possibilities with that. Which they should have hired you to write The Last Jedi.
I guess. And that whole derelict Star Destroyer fleet was just me pulling something out of my ass based on the expanded universe. So,
yeah. It's although these days it's very hard to tell the difference between woke and dull. Because
go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, like, the woke is meant. I think the woke is meant to be there to hide the dull.
See, I wonder if part of it's that. I also think that being woke. By the way, our definition of woke is not movie happens to star a black woman.
Yeah.
It is the fact that, as with the Woman King here, it's more. I'm not even sure if I would call the Woman King woke, except that people are trying to make it woke.
Yeah.
Woke is the story is there primarily to sell some sort of identity or promote the identity rather than actually being a story.
Mm-hmm.
That happens to have characters who possess that identity.
Yes.
So, like, say, the Malcolm X movie. Is that woke? No, it's just a historical drama that focuses on somebody with a certain perspective.
Mm-hmm. I'm trying to think of a movie like. I would say an example of a movie that's woke would be like Um, Harley Quinn and Birds of Prey.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and Ninja Toe brings up here. He said, "Rings of Power is dull, not woke. Yeah, calling it woke is based on culture war, as opposed to an objective standard." Yeah, that's what I've heard about about Rings of Power is that it's just boring.
Right. And here's why I think that. So you were saying that the woke is injected to to cover up the dull or to protect against the dull,
Hmm.
which I've heard more. That's a theory that's totally reasonable. Like you realize, oh crap, that these these tests aren't coming in right. And you don't always have like the Zaslav opportunity to cancel things and get a whole bunch of money back.
Yeah,
So you go, okay, let's prepare for some fan baiting just to make our critics look evil.
yeah,
The alternative perspective is that if a thing is woke, it is by definition, you know what's going to happen.
right.
Like, let's take the Jonathan Kent Superman, for example. So apparently he has spent, I've heard multiple critics, including ones who don't go in for culture war stuff, say nothing is happening in this comic. In theory, he's fighting one of the major villains from the Wildstorm universe who owns a country a la Doctor Doom, who is manufacturing superhumans. This should be cool, but instead he keeps coming out to people. He came out to his mom. I think he came out to his team. He came out to the world. He's going to come out to, he's going to come out to Superman when he comes home because he's been gone for so long.
Hmm.
Now, do you think that any of these characters are going to be allowed to be squeaked out or be grossed out or not be super supportive?
No, no.
Right. So where's the point of interest? What if Superman told him, "Nah, it's just a phase." I kind of felt the same way when I was 19. Never acted on it, but that, then I saw. Then I got that job at the Daily Planet, and let's just say that your your mom might have to go. Your mom might want to check herself for lumps occasionally because damn, I was using my X-ray vision a lot.
Yeah.
Like, do you think Clark is going to be allowed to act kind of like a closed off Midwesterner dad and be not happy about it? No.
No.
What's funny is like even villains aren't allowed to have a negative attitude take on it.
Yeah, yeah. It's Oh, I'm gonna, trying to take over the world. Yeah, whatever. But you're homophobic.
Like, can you imagine like just like if you wanted to like actually play with it and make it look ridiculous? Imagine if you had the Parasite. He's like, well, Superman isn't here, so I'm going to steal your powers instead. Finds out he's gay and suddenly doesn't want to touch him anymore.
Yeah.
Like that you could actually do something with. Like that's a
Yeah. It makes total sense too, there will be a lot of people who would be mad about it, but it's like he's the bad guy.
he yes,
You
bad
know?
guys are you know what the fun of bad guys is they do things what you aren't allowed to do in normal society.
Right? Yeah. Ninja Toe says, I still believe that Jonathan is mind controlled by the pink hair terrorist to be.
And there's the retcon if they ever want to do it.
Yes. But yeah.
Yeah, so it's like, is the story dull because it's woke? Possibly, because it's like if the entire story is it's about Jonathan Kent coming out as bisexual to people,
Hmm.
okay, who's left to come out to? Is he going to? I heard somebody joking. Is he going to travel the universe, going from planet to planet, announcing that he's gay?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm a horrible villain, but I totally support gay rights.
It's like that Joker in that Batman crossover. Uh, I might be crazy, but I'm not a homophobe.
Yeah.
Yeah, for that matter, why isn't you could totally have the Joker not believe that Harley is actually gay or bi or whatever she is these days, and is just doing it to spite him. And that would actually be like a, wouldn't that be so in character for him?
Yes, yes, it would.
Like, oh, come on.
Oh, come on, Harley.
Uh, look, Poison Ivy is a lot of people's sexual fantasies, but she's not really yours.
Yeah.
Uh, you want some of your pudding.
Yeah. uh, Dear Ines says, I think there's a fine line between woke and adult. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yes, it's a fine line.
right. It's like the two are often cross-contaminant with each other.
Yeah.
And it's just one of those things where, like Little Mermaid being having a black actress, you know why they're doing it. It's meant to be a provocation.
Yes.
So, but it's like on the other hand, if they had cast, trying to think of a redheaded actress.
Um. Karen Gillian.
Okay, let's say they cast Karen Gillian to be Ariel. I would still go, it's a Disney live action remake. No thanks.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think I've watched any of the live action Disney remakes.
From the sounds of it, the only one that's worth watching is Cinderella.
That's what I've heard. Yeah. Kenneth Branagh, I think, directed that one.
Hmm.
So yeah, it will. It's got a quality director behind it, and Ninja Toe says, I like Zerg's position when it comes to equality. I'm an equal opportunity enslaver.
Hey, so is the Woman King.
Yes.
Anyway,
Yeah.
so that last one was kind of a topic that not like a real timely topic. It's just like it's part of our ongoing discussion of, okay, culture war can be fun and all, but it's like, is it getting us anywhere?
No, it just seems to be getting people mad.
Right. I kind of realized that there was a lot of things where I had to take a chill pill on it because, like, did it really affect me?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
oh no, Marvel and DC comics suck on toast. Uh, is this especially different than their norm over the last 20 years?
Not really.
And they've all had good points in their history and stories that I've enjoyed, but most of the time I could take or leave the stories, truth be told.
Mm.
Like I wasn't buying the Captain Marvel comics and then realized it was awful.
Yeah.
By that point, I had stopped reading altogether, and then I just happened to stumble across Micah Curtis's video about social justice comics don't sell, and I think from there, it recommended me your boy Zach's videos, and down that rabbit hole I went.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of what happened with me. Yeah.
So that does that make anything that they said wrong? No, it's just kind of like, well, that is now part of my background thought process, but boy, I don't want to be angry about things that I can't control.
Yeah, I'm the same way, and it's a waste of energy, and yeah, it's what you do is you fall back on the old stuff, and then go back and do what we've been doing, which is just like going back and looking at some old stuff that maybe we have missed in recent years, missed before, and giving that a look.
Yeah, like sure. Is me watching the new Simpsons episodes on Disney feeding the mouse? Sure. Although I technically don't pay for those accounts. I sponge off someone else. It's like I think I use Hulu enough that I would pay for Hulu on its own.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, okay, it's feeding the mouse. Oh well. I mean,
Yeah.
it,
Yeah, I think the ad version of Hulu is $7, $8 a month,
mm.
something like that.
I
I
know
know.
that I know it gives that a price hike.
Yeah, yeah. It used to be like $6.
Let's find out.
Right. Hulu is
Plans are ad supported. $6.99 a month or
$7 a
$6.99
month. Okay.
a year. Hulu with no ads is $12.99 a month with no annual
No
option.
annual option.
And if you and if you go, you know that they always like to do their Hulu deals around Black Friday to try to get people in.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what, Holy Ninja, you said the best line there. The best way to fight the culture war is to make better culture, which is what we try to do here. So
Yes, exactly.
expect to see some announcements from me in the coming months. I'm about to finish Orca Princess, and then I'm going to really focus to double down on getting more stuff up on Amazon for a while rather than making new stuff.
Yeah.
Because I've
Yeah.
got 3 books in the back burner ready to go.
Ooh, nice. And as far as with me, Angels Awakening still in demand, the Second Chance campaign, and I'm getting very close to launching Guardian Angels campaign.
Excellent.
Yeah. I still got I got a couple of perks that I've got to have done, and then get all my ducks in a row, and get that going. Yeah. So.
Yep.
All right. I think that's all the topics we have for tonight. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We really appreciate it. Give us a like and hit the subscribe if you haven't already, and the notification bell, and
all that other goodness.
Yeah. D Rhino still on First Magpie. I actually finished the first Magpie, so going to go on to the second one. But yeah, thank you, everybody, again, and we will see you all next week.
Yep. Night, everyone.
The life of a spy isn't as glamorous as I thought. But it isn't dull.